Hello, welcome back to the Big Ten Show. I'm here with Stuart Schnee, or Schnee, some people pronounce it like that, and my name is David Wiener. Today we're going to be talking about several different things. One is the shooting that happened yesterday in Jersey City, 2 days ago
in
Jersey City. Along with that, there was coincidentally at the same day, there was an executive order that was passed, or not passed, but signed by the president. And with that, we also want to cover a little bit of anti-Semitism, the elections in the UK, and obviously also the elections in Israel and primaries that are going to be happening in the Likud that was voted on recently to not have primaries for the whole party, for the whole list, but they will be having it for the leader, for the head. So what's your point of view?
I'm originally from New Jersey, so I think I didn't know that.
I didn't know. I thought you were from New York.
I find the whole thing is just very shocking. I haven't been able to stop thinking about it the whole time since it's happened. There's so many different levels of bad to it. But I guess for me, maybe because I've spent time there, I've been to Jersey City. There's a variety of reasons I've had to be there in the past, and so I know the area not super well. But
are you surprised it happened there?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think I'm still living in the United States that I grew up in, which is that Jews don't get shot, and so
getting shot. Yeah, but do you think that there is more anti-Semitism now than there used to be?
I think it's pretty clear.
Or is it just more outward?
I think it's a little bit of both. I mean, all the reporting of anti-Semitic crimes in Crown Heights, for example, Borough Park, Williamsburg more, it seems like a lot of that was going on. It has been going on. Maybe the numbers are going up, but it might just be the reporting.
Right, because I remember one time, I think in 2003, I was working in New Jersey in the summer while I was in university, and I was in a parking lot in a grocery store in Lakewood, and as somebody was pulling out, and another car came driving really fast, and the guy had his window rolled down, and when so kind of whatever, he didn't get in an accident or anything, but the guy started yelling at him, "Oh, you damn kike," things like that, which is it seems to me like it's still there was always this underlying anti-Semitism. It's kind of, it went both ways. Like I used to live in Manchester, New Jersey, and people loved it when all the religious people started coming in because they were buying up all the houses for a little bit extra, higher than what they thought they could sell in general before that. But so there is, there's a love-hate kind of relationship with that's my feeling.
There's always a love-hate relationship with every ethnic group. The thing with the United States is that I always thought that there probably African Americans dealt more with prejudice and racism than Jews did. That was always my sense. Seems now that the hate crime numbers are dramatically. It's evident that Jews are dealing with this a lot. This is being reported all the time. It could be that social media and the fact that everybody has a phone now and can record things, or that there's security cameras everywhere. It could be that these things allow us to know more about it. Fine.
It could be also that I think, back 20, 30, 40 years, 50 years, the assimilation kind of, or the want to assimilate, or the kind of need to look like everybody else or act like everybody else, I think was higher than nowadays. Nowadays, you see a lot of people kind of
I think
more religious.
The way I see it is this. Post-Holocaust, we had a period of time of sort of getting off the hook, much less anti-Semitism, completely unacceptable. I think that window's closing now. I think we see in a lot of different places a growth in anti-Semitism in the United States. Eventually, people will be able to figure out why this is happening. I mean, there's also this sort of spiritual element of the Jewish people are always sort of dwell alone, a nation that dwells alone. I'm not going to go there right now. I think what happened in New Jersey is utterly shocking. This community is a small little community. Anybody who knows them knows that they're, good, kind people, good neighbors, and any effort to try to blame it on anything else but pure, unadulterated hatred is outrageous in my mind. The fact that there's a video going around of people celebrating it is shocking to me. I would like to see, especially the American left, standing up and speaking out against this. We hear constantly about the phobias about other groups, and I don't see them standing up about anti-Semitism. I think. I just want to say one other thing is that de Blasio he had a chutzpah to say that now we see that anti-Semitism is at our doorstep. What do you mean doorstep? It's smack in the middle of New York, and it's been going on for a long time.
What do you mean? Even in his...
What do you mean even? It's mostly happening in the borough of Brooklyn.
You have AOC there that's been coming,
I don't think she's had anything to do with this.
She doesn't have anything to do with this.
Nothing to do with the violence. Nothing.
You have the two other members of the Congress.
But I think that's mixing apples and oranges. Okay, she's outrageous.
Kinds of tropes that were totally anti-Semitic.
But I don't think that she has anything to do with
this.
They
didn't cause it.
No, I don't think so.
I wouldn't blame anybody for causing it. Just like when somebody shot a senator in Washington D.C. in the ballpark there. It was a Bernie supporter. You can't blame Bernie Sanders for him shooting people. Just like I don't think you can blame Trump for all these stupid people that do things, in his name or whatever. It has nothing to do with
I don't think any of
politics.
this was done by people who support Trump. That's for sure. So, I mean,
that you have.
There's no question that anti-Semitism is clearly out of the bag. This is not the America we grew up in. It's surely not the America that my parents grew up in. It's simply and it looks like. What's happening in England? It's not the England that
it's a little bit more than a year to date. When I think it was a year and like a month to date from the shooting that happened in the synagogue.
Which one in Pittsburgh? Oh yeah.
Almost a year to date.
And I guess maybe because all of that affected me. That in San Diego, but New Jersey for sure, it's really hit home. And I think now we move to England. There's elections today, and I think that I think a lot of British Jews would say the exact same thing. They would say this is not the UK we grew up in. They traditionally, maybe not as hardcore as American Jews vote Democrat, but traditionally Jews vote very
70-something% from what I heard they vote for them usually.
They used to. Yeah. Well, we'll see today. I don't think that number is going to hold.
Right, so I think it was the opposite this time. I heard it was like from the polling they showed that about 76% of Jews this time are voting against them.
Right.
Which
I don't think they really have a choice. I mean, a lot of Jews are probably voting for. The Democratic Liberals, I think that's what they're called. I'm embarrassed to say I don't know the name, but they're sort of a more centrist party that are, people who can't stand to vote Tory will vote for them.
Right.
But it's a terrible situation, and
But it seems like the same situation is going on all over the place. I mean, if you look at what's going on in England, and the left's not really coming out against them. They're not coming against.
Look, there's been select leftists. There were some actors and writers that came out against him, but it's not at all what the Jews would have liked. The fact that people are saying, we have to save our country from Brexit, and it's worth holding our nose and voting for Labour. I just don't see Jews doing that, or leftists doing that for any other group. They would just be like, well, we can't vote for somebody because they're racist or this or that. It comes to Jews, and everybody's suddenly very willing to forgive Corbyn, and it's very distasteful. The whole thing's very distasteful. It's stressful. It's stressful. I'm going to definitely be watching the results tonight. Because it's. I mean, I love politics, but I love the way the British do the elections. It's very cute that people come running in to count. Right? They come with these boxes and they dump it on the table and they count like crazy. Much different than Israel or the United States.
Totally different. I mean, we count, but it's not like that.
Yeah, in Israel it's very relaxed. We'll get to it. In America, it's all computerized, or a lot of it is.
Unless you have hanging chats.
Yeah, I know. So yeah, England is bad. For me personally, Jersey City is really sort of a cloud over all of it right now.
So what do you think about what's going on? At least what people have been saying, how they've been attacking Trump for the executive order that he signed, which basically recognized the Jewish people as a nationality.
Right, they did that. I read
to protect students on universities.
Right. The reason why is because, as I understood it, that the law up till now is it protects religious groups, but not ethnicities or something like that. And this was sort of like a.
It protects ethnicities in the sense of if you're black, from a race perspective, not necessarily from a.
Right, so it doesn't protect religions like Roman Catholics or Lutherans are not in there. Neither are Jews.
Right.
And so what happens is what's going on campus today, which has really become quite a plague, spreading throughout the United States. It was going on when I was in college, and it's nothing like it was. It's much worse now.
It was there when I was.
It's much worse now. So I think the New York Times reported it incorrectly. People are losing their minds about it. Every article I've read about it that comes out after the New York Times article, there's no question that it seems like it's actually a very good thing. I understand there's a lot of people who oppose Trump on every single level, But even as they say, even a broken clock can be correct twice a day. And I think that attacking him for things that are actually helpful is really not helpful. And I think
not only that, from what I understood, the language in his executive order was the exact same language that Obama used.
But it was sort of an extension.
For the laws that he passed in order to protect different ethnicities, different races, different religions on campus.
Exactly. So I think that the whole
same language.
Right. So the bad reporting of the New York Times, which I think was corrected, started it seems, and now what you've got is all these people saying like he's a Nazi. It's one step closer to the Nuremberg laws, etc. And it's all hot, overheated excitement, and it's just not helpful, and it's not true. It's not accurate.
Right.
So I think anything that can be done, what's going on college campuses now is insane. It's a victory for hatred, because basically what they're trying to do is anything to avoid normalizing Israel. That's what they call it, and it means that every time a Jewish student stands up for anything Jewish these days, it seems on a lot of campuses they get knocked down for that also. I don't mean physically knocked down usually, but
Well, I think even one of the biggest Jewish speakers in the U.S., one of the biggest conservative speakers also, when Ben Shapiro goes to universities,
it's not because he's Jewish, it's because he's conservative.
It might be because they're conservative, but they still call him a Nazi. They call Ben Shapiro a Nazi.
Look,
the armor-wearing Jew, they call him a Nazi. And they also
look,
put up some flyers that showed him, basically, if you take the flyer, it looks like it came out from Nazi Germany.
Right. I think if Ben Shapiro was Protestant, they would say the same thing. I mean,
maybe.
I'm not agreeing with them. I'm just saying I don't think he's being hit because he's Jewish. I mean, maybe that adds an extra oomph to some people's hatred of him, but that has to
he
do
also
with,
gets attacked by the alt-right, and people say that he's alt-right. He gets,
Right.
I think one of the biggest alt-right leaders actually, I think a couple weeks ago, put out a video where he was talking about Ben Shapiro, and he had a knife in his hand and stabbing in the air at the same time as he was talking.
I'm not surprised, but I don't think the two are connected. I think the anti-Israel thing on campus has spread to the point where because most Jews, and it's really like 98% or something of American Jewry, in one way or another support Israel. It doesn't mean they agree with it, and of course every Jew in America has to say, it doesn't mean I agree with the Likud or I don't agree, blah blah. It's all given. We take it as a given. You don't have to vote for a certain party in Israel. You support a certain politician in Israel, but most Jews in America support Israel, and thus they can constantly be bashed for anything they do on campus, anything a Hillel does, anything a Jewish group on campus does. I think I've even heard of Jewish fraternities being hit.
Yeah.
So that's bad. And if Trump's order is going to help, then all more power to it.
When I was on campus, I remember there was about 4 or 5 Jewish sororities, and there was 3 Jewish fraternities, and there was times when they were just attacked. The sorority houses, the fraternity houses, they were spray painted with Nazi symbols, all kinds of stuff, and this was back in 2001, 2002, 2000. It was just nasty. We even had, I remember one time we had in synagogue one time on Rosh Hashanah, we had people just running through. They streaked through the shul, the synagogue,
Nice.
and were screaming like anti-Semitic slurs.
Right. I think that the other point that I just want to point out is it's surprising to see how a lot of people came out and said, well, Jews are not a nation. I think if anybody reads Jewish text and figures out, spend some time learning Jewish history, I think Jewish people are a nation, and they shouldn't be embarrassed. And just because Trump called us a nation doesn't mean it's not true. You may think Trump is wrong on everying, but he's not wrong on this.
So you know what the interesting part is there? Is that when you come from a religious perspective, for instance, from a religious perspective, what's the definition of somebody that's Jewish or not, and if they keep the mitzvahs or the laws of Judaism or not, it has a huge impact. Mm-hmm. And the people that tend to be more secular Jews in the U.S., they keep saying, oh no, we're not religious, we're part of the Jewish nation. But at the same time, now those exact same people are coming out and attacking Trump for defining the Jewish people as a nation. And it's kind of, so decide where you want to be. You want to be Jewish? Then okay, come in, do the mitzvahs.
I think a lot of people are just
be Jewish. Or, you're still Jewish, even if you're not keeping all the laws. But don't sit here and say that we're not a nation, because that takes you out of it.
Look, the bottom line,
just a religion.
The bottom line is the president has agitated so many people so much that it's hard for a lot of people to take anything he says peacefully. So, if he gave the weather report, they would be angry. And I to a certain
especially
extent,
if he said it was going to rain in a week from now and it doesn't rain, that would be,
right.
He's a liar.
Right, or if he says it rains and it does rain, then they say, So I can understand it, but that doesn't mean I approve of it. And with that, let's go to our next thing, which is
elections.
Here in Israel last night, it was the
final night.
The Parliament, the Knesset, did not find a way to call on somebody to form a government. Netanyahu had a certain amount of time, and then Benny Gantz did. And then there was a sort of
free-for-all
21-day period where anybody could have become prime minister if they got 61 signatures and et cetera, but it didn't come together. I'm a little bit surprised, to be frank with you. I thought that at the last minute somehow would pull together.
So what do you think is at fault? There's three names up in the air right now, right? There's Bibi, obviously, because everybody wants to blame him. There's blue and white and Gantz or whatever. I guess there's four.
I don't know about and Lapid. That's what I heard.
And then Lieberman.
Look, none of us will know. Anybody who's been involved in any of this kind of stuff knows that there's so much spin and so much, Lieberman is in many ways to blame for this whole situation because he decided after the first election not to go with his natural partners, which was the Likud. He decided, and I think we discussed this in the past.
Well, he decided that before the elections, right? He was the one that actually brought us to
Not in April.
No,
in April,
he left. The way that we came to
that was a year ago. Right?
He left the government.
It's ancient history, right?
It's ancient history, but it's still.
I'm just saying.
He's relying on.
He's
the
the number one.
Right,
I know. He's the number one person to blame for this. After that, it's all, conjecture. To be frank with you, a lot of people would argue that Netanyahu is to blame because he's got indictments on him, and he's dragging things out in order to make sure that he has to go to court as prime minister, as a resident of Jerusalem. He'll be going to a certain kind of court, which is different than the court he'd be assigned if he was home
in Tel Aviv.
So he prefers that Jerusalem. There's a lot of reasons for it, but the bottom line is here we are, and I think the big news, we discussed this last week a little bit. The big news is that the Likud has also decided that 26th of December is going to be a primary election, and the way the Likud primary this time is going to work, it's only going to be for leadership of the party. So that means if right now there's two people running, it's.
Do you think anybody else is going to jump in? We talked about it last week. Is Gideon Sar?
I think that the other ones are too scared. I think Netanyahu is such a dominant figure in the Likud that even that Gideon Sar did it was already like going against nature.
Well, it's actually very interesting to me the fact that we didn't go to primaries also for the list.
There's not enough time. There's not enough time.
But I one of the things that you could have saw, right, was that if Bibi really wants to come against Gideon Sar hard, he could, because what he could do is he could say, okay, we're going also to the elections for the list, and he could try to knock Gideon Sar down as far as possible on the list.
Okay, but that's only like science fiction. It's not. Yeah.
It was plausible, but it didn't happen. He actually was very for not running on the list for the list,
right?
Which makes sense because these people they did a huge effort. There's 31, 32, 33. You never know how many are going to go in. They put in a huge effort to get on that list, and they haven't had any time whatsoever to actually do anything with it. Which is a shame.
Right. I think the thing is that what Gideon Sar has done is simply political genius for him, because what he's done is this: he's stood up and saying, "I'm running against Netanyahu." I personally think he's going in the past 48 hours. He said a few things that sort of were a little bit over the top for let's say traditional Likud people to hear. But the bottom line is he's attacking Netanyahu. He's saying that Netanyahu can't win in the next election, etc., etc. True or not true, he is standing up and giving a fight. Now, the thing that makes that's not the genius part. The genius part is that he's placed himself now as he is the successor. There's no question about it. I know that you don't like him so much, but I think that if tomorrow Netanyahu has to
vote for him, even if Netanyahu has to resign, because of what he's doing now.
So who do you think they'd vote for?
That's a good question, right? From what I saw in the polls, which was very surprising to me, was the polls showed that they actually supported Nir Barkat way more than Sar. Which the reason why I found that interesting was because the fact that Nir Barkat is not within the political party of the Likud for a very long time. Right. He isn't like the natural Likudnik. But even though he's not, they really support him.
Okay, I didn't see that poll. But
it came out this week.
The fact is
It was,
I mean,
it was surprising.
it may not work, but I think what Saar did is he said, look, I'll support, and I bet you, he'll lose in the primaries to Bibi, let's say.
For sure.
He'll come out and support Netanyahu. He'll work hard to get the Likud elected. It's not like, I think he's a loyal Likudnik, and I think this is how Democratic parties work. I think we've forgotten, because the language of division is so acceptable today, we've forgotten that within a political party you can have opponents.
Right, so I have no problem with the primaries. I don't have a problem with actually asking for primaries either. And I don't think anybody in the Likud has problems with him asking for primaries.
Oh, I don't know about that.
People are really upset about the way he approached it, because what he was trying to do, he wasn't trying to just have primaries. I mean, he was straight up saying, let's have primaries before the end of this time period to form the new government. Why? Because I'll be able to form the new government.
Look, I don't know how much of that.
Form it.
I don't know. Well, I think
that's what he was doing.
Well, unfortunately, there's some truth to it because
they won't sit with Bibi. They won't sit with him. So obviously, there's truth to it. How is he gonna form a government with people that just totally refuse to sit with him?
So
you just can't do it.
I think a Likud person wouldn't want to hear this, but basically, if they won't want to sit with him, so they don't want to sit with him. So it's a reality. In other words,
it is a reality.
So maybe they'll sit with Saar. Now,
why would you want him to sit with Saar? I mean, from my perspective, if I was big time supporter of the Likud, I would say to myself, okay,
you are a big time supporter.
I am, but I'm trying to look at it from a non-biased perspective.
Okay.
Which it might be biased, but I'm still trying to. I mean, the way I would look at it, even I was looking at it from a Ba'atii perspective, from the Jewish from the religious parties, I would say, look, we have a government we lean more to the right, we're more conservative, fiscally, socially, all these different things. So, if they don't want to sit with Bibi, who we see as our leader, then they don't want to sit with us. I mean, and some of the parties have said it specifically, they don't want to sit with the religious parties. I mean, Lieberman has said it, Gantz has said it, Lapid has said it.
Look, I don't agree with them, but I think the thing that they have going for them...
even the Labour Party said that, of course we'll sit with the religious parties.
Right, the religious parties. But I think the point is that it's... I'm against all these personal boycotts, but I think that what the blue and white have going for them in their argument is that, Netanyahu did unfortunately get indicted on three...
Okay, but innocent until proven guilty.
It's true, but, first of all, I think of what the Likud would say, like, we did when Olmert was prime minister, and also, it's not...
a different story.
Right, but this is not a good thing, and it's unfortunate, and it may not be fair at all.
Olmert went all the way to the left. He wasn't
a
true conservative.
But for that, you don't put people in jail. I mean, he was indicted for
he was indicted for different things.
He
was
sat in
indicted
jail
for what he did when he was mayor of Jerusalem.
So the thing is this, blue and white really has the right to do what they're doing. They can say, we don't want to sit with him, and they'll just hold out. And what they're doing, I think, is unfortunately, going to lead to them possibly forming the next government, because basically what they're doing is which is usually not done in Israeli politics, they're sticking to their guns. I kind of expected them to fold and to make
we'll see. We don't know what's going to happen between now and I think the next elections they put for March 2nd, I think.
Something like that. But there's now you can't form a new government between
now. No, not to form a new government. I'm saying folding, as in this, the blue and white party is a formation of a bunch of different parties. The question is until now we're hearing that Lapid is vetoing everything all the time.
But it seems to me
they'll split apart.
The great surprise of blue and white is that they haven't split apart and that they are sticking together. And in fact, I think they're becoming closer. And it's, if you're from a Likud perspective, that's not good news. They have an everything but BB approach, but I don't think they have one view on economy, security, really anything.
You think that Lieberman can hold to his guns? Lieberman has been holding out like crazy also. You think he's also going to hold?
He doesn't have a choice now. Now there's going to be elections.
But that's the only way that they can form a government. Right? The only way the left can form a government is with the Arab parties and Lieberman. If they don't bring in any of the religious parties, they don't bring in the Likud, that's the only way they can form a government. So, and Lieberman, it's highly doubtful that he'll sit with the Arabs.
So I'm one of these people who doesn't. I don't like to. I don't have like what's it called, a crystal ball. I have no idea of knowing. I mean, it could be that Netanyahu will go and we'll have a peace treaty with Morocco and blah blah blah, which were some of the rumors last week. And who knows what he's got up his sleeve? But what I do know is that blue and white, they're punchy, they're aggressive. They respond right. It's something that like Labour Party never seemed to do as well as the Likud. The Likud was always the one who came out with the one-liners, with the attacks, and basically put everybody on the defensive. And Blue and White, to a certain extent, is starting to do that. I don't know who they have coming up with their messaging, but I think they're doing a good job.
But they're just non-stop. They've been totally non-stop.
But that's part of the game. But the fact you can be non-stop and also be ineffective, and I think they are effective. And I think a lot of people who don't know all the details.
They do have like 80% or 90% of the media behind them. Also, it's kind of you can't.
Which is funny that Gideon Sar said that he feels that Bibi has the media on his side. So.
Because maybe he thinks that that's going to help him with getting him indicted.
The traditional Likudniks like to be the underdog.
Yeah, but I don't know. It just seems like a whole mess to me, the whole situation there.
Well, that's clear, and I think everybody thinks it's a mess, and it's a shame. I was listening to the radio today; they were talking about the amount of money that's being spent on this. Look, it's not the end of the world.
Do you think anything can be done between now and March 2nd?
That will do what? To change the balance?
It'll make it that there'll be a clear. Other than somebody dying, God forbid, there'll be a clear, right or left wing government.
Look, I find it very hard to believe. I mean, I say this with sorrow, but I really question what's the Likud going to say now? And what kind of.
Well, they've been setting it up the whole time. They've been setting it up. They've been trying to make every single deal possible. 6 months, all these type of deals.
Right. So Blue and White.
With total refusal.
Blue and White has absolutely nothing. They have no laurels to rest upon. But if they just stick to their guns, which they've been doing pretty much, then I think. And also, Gantz now is more of a public figure.
He is, but he's still not saying his mind.
No, he's not very effective, and he's not very impressive. But it doesn't matter. He's more well known. He has been going up against Bibi, and that makes him like an alternative.
What do you think about the direct
alternative choice? I don't like
direct elections. Meaning that Bibi was trying to.
I know, but even now that's not going to help him because now they say in the polls they're almost even. Opinion polls have always shown Netanyahu to be the preferred.
I think before the last election they showed him at 40%.
Over Gantz, who was a few points behind. Now they're supposedly equal. That's not good news for Bibi.
That's not good news. It's not good news for everybody, I think, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah. Okay. So we hope that next week we'll have good news on the UK elections. That. I don't know why all the news about Jersey City is bad. I don't see how it could become good. The only good news there is that Orthodox Jewish community in general, Orthodox Jews specifically, raised money for the policeman who was killed there. He left behind a widow and 5 kids, and they raised $25,000 for him, which is a significant amount of money
so
in
far,
48 hours.
Still raising.
Oh, okay. I thought they were just going to stop at $25,000, but that's a lot of money to raise in 48 hours. Sure. Just as a sort of token. I mean, the man gave his life and to protect citizens of Jersey City, and we'll probably have a lot more news about Likud primaries.
Likud primaries, also the elections. We'll also have to see what's going on because there's also the matter of I think Bibi also has a limited amount of time to actually go to the Knesset and request chasinut.
Right. I don't know immunity.
From the government. He only has, I think, maybe 20-something days left.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting because
he'll ask for it.
He'll ask for it.
I don't know if he'll get it, but he'll ask for it.
If he doesn't get it, it also sets precedence. All right. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
If you have any comments, questions, please comment below and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. We'll see you next week.
Bye bye.